Hello, my name is Dr. Todd, and I've always loved magic. I love the community, the art form, and the way it brings people together through wonder, laughter, and surprise. This podcast is my chance to share conversations with incredible people who create, perform, and inspire magic, so we can all learn, grow, and stay connected to what makes this art so special. This is Magician's Workshop. Benjamin Barnes is a celebrated magician, writer, and producer based in Chicago, known for his smooth, elegant sleight of hand and deep respect for the art of magic. Benjamin has performed across the country and curated shows at some of the most prestigious magic venues, including the Chicago Magic Lounge, where he serves as artistic director. He's also a frequent collaborator to Genie Magazine and a passionate advocate for elevating magic as a theatrical art form. Benjamin Barnes, welcome to the Magician's Workshop.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, I was thrilled to hear from you. I've been aware of your podcast since you started, and I was honored to have been asked.
I'm so honored to have really, really great performers that just talk to and share some of your insight. And basically, I'm doing this for me, and if anybody else likes it, so be it. I'll put it out there. But if this helps one more person just pick up a magic book and just decide to learn a trick or two, and it makes their lives a little better, I mean, that's a service.
Absolutely. I love that.
So we're going to go from easy to hard questions. They're all easy for you because it's just stuff you should already know.
Yeah.
Like the first one, which you have to ask, it's a rule. You have to ask every magician, what is your earliest memory of magic?
My earliest memory of magic. My earliest memory of magic is my dad doing a card trick with what I now understand was a Svengali deck. My father was a stay-at-home dad for about 2 years when I was a kid, and he had a deck of TV magic cards. Remember those? Marshall Brodeen. It was just a Svengali deck. That was the brand name of them when you went to Walgreens to buy them. Yeah, my dad had this Svengali deck, and I didn't know what that was when I was 5. And it was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When did you decide? When did you know that this was going to be your career path?
I realized that when I was around 12, I had become interested in magic earlier than that. I first became interested in magic when I was 7. But like a lot of kids, I just thought it was cool. It was fun. I had a magic set, a couple of magic books. It was something just fun to do, and I thought was fascinating. But when I was 12, I was at home. My older sister was babysitting me and my younger sister. We were just sort of flipping through the TV stations, and we caught the tail end of a David Copperfield special when he escaped from Alcatraz. And we saw like maybe the first few minutes of that escape. We didn't even see the whole show, but I saw the first minute of when he melted through the bars of the cell. And when I saw that, that was it. I said, I gotta do this. This is incredible.
That's amazing. When did you start performing, like full on performing?
Well, my first show was when I was 12.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you right away.
Yeah. And, my parents got me a catalog for Magic Incorporated, which was my local magic shop owned by Jay Marshall. And, ordered a few tricks. And all of my early shows were free. So I would call up people and say, can I do some magic for you? So I didn't have to do a 45-minute show. I would do like 25 minutes, maybe 30, maybe. But I was just doing the tricks that I had. And because it was free, no one really gave me a lot of grief if it was 15 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were short shows, but they were the beginning for me.
And where was this? Have you always been based out of Chicago?
Yeah. I was born and raised in Chicago, and all of my first early shows were on the south side of Chicago, which is where I'm from. But I very quickly started doing magic for orphanages.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
pediatric wards. My dad gave me this idea of calling places that needed magic, that it would be received as a gift. So yeah, we performed almost every weekend in a pediatric ward for kids who were bound to the hospital or orphanages,
Wow.
and these places were thrilled at the thought of getting the free magic show. So yeah, we did that for years.
Wow. That's really, really cool. I would never, that's a great way to also to practice and bring joy to others. So you get to, it's like the double whammy.
Yeah, and that was it. Yeah, that was I think why my dad was so supportive of it, because he saw how happy these kids were, and my dad sacrificed his weekends for like 3 years. you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
You were behind the longest running magic variety show in Chicago, and it was called Chicago Magic, which critics called both a love letter to the city's magical roots and a bold step forward. What inspired you to create that?
Well, the inspiration for the show was a magician's name was Eugene Berger, and
Mm-hmm.
he had three students. There was myself, Patrick Thomas Murphy, and Robert Charles. And one day, Robert and Patrick were complaining how there were no places to be bad in the city. So Eugene said, "Well, you should create something like that and call Ben, and he'll help you." And so they called me, and together that's what we did. And the shows initially were invitation only. So we would invite people, but we didn't charge them anything because we knew the shows were terrible. But
Well, in what way were they terrible? I think we got to delve down into that.
well, we didn't have a lot of stage experience, doing these sort of formal stage shows. We just didn't have that. So we did these shows. We would invite our friends, and after a while, we discovered people were having fun with these shows, and then we would charge a little bit. And one of the three, Patrick Murphy, he left the show, so we had this hole in the show, and I would invite my friends to come in and perform, and we started charging so that we could pay them because
Mm.
they were already pretty good. So we had to pay them something. And around the same time, I was invited to perform at the Magic Castle. And I started to meet people in California. Then I would bring those people to Chicago. And then our show became a ticketed event. And we did it for 12 years.
That's amazing. That is an extremely long time.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That that sounds exhausting. How many shows were you, like, how many times a week were you performing?
Well, you know what? That show, for the most part, was monthly, unless
Okay.
we had, like, we produced Max Maven's one man show, and we did that 3 or 4 nights that 1 month. So, if we had a show that we knew we could sell tickets to, because that's the big trick when you have a theater
Mhm.
show, is you have to sell those tickets. When we had a show that we knew we could sell tickets to, we would do several. But for the most part, the show was monthly.
How did you get invited to the Magic Castle?
When Max came to do his show in Chicago, he literally, maybe the week before, was hired to be the entertainment director at the Magic Castle.
Oh,
And,
wow.
so I spent a lot of time with him. And at one point, he said, "You should send me a video. You might be able to do this." So I sent in a video, and he got back to me after a year. So it took a year from sending it in for
Wow.
him to get back to me. And now in my current role, I understand why it took so long. But, but yeah, he got back to me, and I went out there the first time, and yeah, it was a life changing experience.
Yeah, the videos I've seen from the castle, that's on my bucket list, is to go, is to visit there and see the how it works. It seems
Yeah,
amazing.
gotta go. You gotta. I was thinking about it today. It is still the mecca of magic in the world, and if you love magic, you have to make a visit.
Yeah, it is. It really is something you've got to try to do. Getting in is a different thing altogether. Hopefully, some of the friends I've made along the way, I'll be able to weasel my way in somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would send you a pass today. Yeah.
All right, good. I think it's more likely that I'm going to be able to get to Chicago. I have a cousin in Chicago.
Yeah.
She's big into pinballs, so I've been meaning to go out there and visit her. And then I wanted to see you and Paige at the Magic Lounge. It seems like an absolutely astounding place. Before I forget, I did want to say I know that the Chicago Magic Lounge that you get in through like a fake laundromat.
Yeah.
Have anyone ever showed up with laundry?
Yes.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
I that's hard to believe, but
No, it's
that sounds
true.
like something.
No, in the early days, yeah, people used to do that more. It doesn't happen now, but in the first few
Right.
years, yeah, we had to tell
That's
people
brilliant.
because some of the machines really work. So, um, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
It's how did Magic Chicago change your perspective about the technical side of Magic?
Yeah, yeah. The big things I took away from that is that you need to have a team. You cannot, or I certainly couldn't do that on my own. And when I see magicians going into theatrical spaces, um, a lot of times when it's not very good, it's because the team is not suited for that type of work. I'm very fortunate now to have a team that is amazing when it comes to that. But I realized early on that you need a team and you need people on that team who have skills that extend beyond the world of magic. You need someone who is adept at marketing, someone who's adept at graphic design, someone who knows about lights and sound. It makes all the difference.
Yeah, I guess it did. I did amateur theater, and you couldn't do anything without lighting. I mean, or sound. I mean, without those two, and then knowing where to hit the marks and that. So I can imagine. I mean, this was just a bunch of kids, so it didn't matter as much. But can you imagine when you're selling tickets?
Yeah,
There's you have an obligation.
yeah, yep, you do.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
did it change the way that you performed your magic? Like, how did it change the way you actually did the effects?
Um, it for me, the big change was I was doing close-up magic almost exclusively before, and when I met Eugene Berger, he was making his living sort of, not sort of, he was the preeminent close-up magician in Chicago. So all of my training had been in close-up, and when you stand in a stage in front of a big room of people, that changes everything. And everything is a choice when you step on the stage. And I became accustomed to making choices about everything where I put a prop, how I stand, when do I begin speaking, how do I integrate the music into the magic? Those are things I think about all the time now.
Okay. What? How did you end up meeting Eugene Berger?
When I was in college and I was about to graduate, I wanted to make a living at magic, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And when I was growing up in magic, I had no exposure to the magic world. I'd never went to magic clubs. I didn't know conventions were a thing. I knew my primary exposure to magic came from books in the library and seeing famous magicians on television. So, David Copperfield, maybe Penn and Teller, but that was about it. And when I was in college, someone gave me a copy of Genie magazine, which just showed me there's this whole world of all these people I've never heard of who seem to be great. And then anyone I saw on TV, I would reach out to. So I saw Jeff McBride on Spanish language television, just sort of
God, I
poking
love
around.
Jeff. I loved watching him on TV.
He was great. He was so, so great. So I wanted to get to know him. So I said to myself, he's a great magician. He's on TV. He must live in Las Vegas. So I called directory assistants in Las Vegas and said, "Can you give me Jeff McBride's number?" And they did. And
Wow.
I called him on the phone, and he was in Atlantic City performing with Eugene. But his wife told me this. Abby told me this, and she said, "Here's the phone number to the hotel. Just make sure you call after 1 o'clock because they sleep late because they do the shows." So I called him in Atlantic City, explained that his wife gave me the number, and we spoke for a long, long time. And by a long time, maybe 40 minutes. Uh,
Wow.
yeah. And just as I was hanging up the phone, he said, "Where do you live?" I said, "I live in Chicago." He says, "Well, if you live in Chicago, you have to take lessons from Eugene Berger. If you have to sell your furniture, do it." And I didn't know who this guy was, but Jeff gave me the number, and I called. And about a week later, Eugene called me, and he had me come to his house, and that was the beginning of everything for me.
Wow.
Yeah,
What a legend. And you just, it that is that is exactly what this podcast is about. It's about reaching out and basically just wanting to learn. And the magic community is the preeminent place to find mentors. And it's part of the DNA of a magician.
yeah, I agree.
So wow, that's insane. Like that's like, oh, I'm just going to call up one of the greatest card manipulators that living today.
Yeah,
Like, and I'm just going to talk to him for 40 minutes. And, oh yeah. And by the way, he also knows the one of the best close-up magicians of all time with literally the best scripting of anyone you've ever met. Oh yeah. We're just going to talk to him.
yeah.
Um, how did his mentorship, how did that affect your growth?
It affected everything. Everything I do is informed by the time I spent with him and the lessons I learned. Just to give you an example, when I met Eugene, he was still very active performing for the public. And Eugene lived in a part of Chicago called the Gold Coast. It's the most affluent part of the city. And he was performing for people throughout that community. Uh, he lived an incredible life. Like, it's magical, the life he had in Chicago. But when I met him, he was making part of his living giving magic lessons. I went to meet him. I think he could see that I really loved magic and really wanted to pursue it. He knew I was still in college and didn't have any money. So he said, "Listen, you you don't have to pay for these lessons. You come here as much as you want. You can call me on the phone as much as you want. The only thing you have to promise is that you will practice." Says if you practice, you never got to pay. And I didn't pay for lessons for years. And I called him on the phone all the time. And he would invite me places with him, gave me access to his world. And um, yeah, I mean, he taught me various magical techniques, but he taught me an approach to magic, not just the performance of it, but how do you interact in the community of magic. He taught me how to be a good citizen. He taught me how to pass along knowledge, and yeah, he taught me a whole lot. He taught me basically how to live the life of a magician.
That's incredible.
Yes, it is.
Wow. All right, we can end it right there. We're good, guys. But I take it back. We got to talk about the Chicago Magic Lounge.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit of the history of how that came about?
Yeah. Yeah, and I wasn't with the Magic Lounge when it began. I was still doing Magic Chicago, and yeah, there's a improvisational actor named Joey Cranford, um, who, as a sort of a gag, received a magic set from his wife. And he got into the magic tricks. And one night he had friends over. He did some of the tricks for his friends. They loved it, and that really sparked an interest in him to learn more. And he got to meet some local magicians. And long story short, they decided to put on this magic show, and it really caught on. Like, it it went from one night to 2 nights to 3 nights, and eventually he got some investment money, and he began to build out the location where we are now. And that was in 2018. So he started the show in 2015. 2018, that's when they began construction on the current venue. And that
Okay.
they asked me to come and be a part of it. By that point, I had a long history of producing magic shows and also bringing great magicians from all over the world to Chicago, and they didn't really have connections with the world of magic outside of the city. So they wanted someone who could reach out to essentially anyone and convince them to come to Chicago.
And that kind of goes into my second question is, what is your role as an entertainment director?
Well, there's the role that's on paper, and then there's the role that's not on paper. And the role that's on paper is I book the shows, anything that makes you clap, smile, gasp. That's what I do. So I hire all of the magicians. We have musical directors here. So oftentimes with our shows, we have uh, musicians who add musical like accents to different moments in a magician's act. So that's my role on paper. My unofficial role is to nurture the community of magic, to help it flourish into the future. And I do that in a multitude of ways, most of which I learned when I spent time with Eugene Berger. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What kind of going along with that? What is the wildest act that you've booked?
That's a wild act.
Yeah. What is it where you were like, wow, this is a choice?
Yeah, this is a choice. I would say it's a tie. Dan Sperry and Harrison Greenbaum.
Okay.
Those two, when you say wild, wild is the word. Both of those performers go to the edge. They go to the edge, and sometimes they go over the edge. But it's been okay. But yeah, very very unconventional to say the least. It's an experience when you watch those guys.
Yeah. How can you tell if somebody's right for performing at the lounge? Like
Um,
how
That's a great question because sometimes people are good magicians, but not good for the lounge. A lot of times people think my job is to determine who is good and who isn't. And that is not my job. My job is to determine who is good for our audience. And I know that our audience comes to us looking to have a great time. And what does that mean? That means they like to laugh, they like to be amazed, they like to engage with the performer. Sometimes during the show, sometimes in a way that is very off script. And so I look for performers who are a good match to that audience. And sometimes, I also like to challenge the audience by giving them something that is outside of what they came for, and so that they get exposed to something uh, sort of exciting, and they get a sense of how grandiose magic is. A lot of times when people come to a magic show, and our audience is all lay people, and a lot of them have never seen a magic show live before. They think magic is that one thing they saw on TV. And when they come here, they see, oh, magic is many different things. And my job is to hire acts that will deliver an experience that's pleasurable, fun, and one that our audience would like to repeat with friends that they bring for the first time uh, upon their return.
if I'm a guest at the Magic Lounge, can you take me through what my experience is going to be?
Sure. So the shows sell out 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So when people show up, a lot of times there's a lot of anticipation because of the way we seat people and the capacity of the building. Uh, we will oftentimes, especially on the weekend, have a long line out the front of the building. And the front of the building doesn't look like anything. There's nothing that says this is a theater, that there's magic. So if you're walking by and you see this line, it's like, what's going on? Uh, but people generally they come in to the laundromat and they have some fun in there. Then they figure out how to
Love
get
that.
beyond that, and then they go into our performance bar. And we always have a magician at the bar that's working. You don't need a ticket to go into the bar, so you can just kind of come in and experience magic, even if we're sold out. Then after that, you're ushered into a different space that ultimately leads you into our Performance Cabaret, which is our big room. And for the first hour in there, you see close up magic at your table. And we have 6 magicians working during what we call our signature show. On average, you see about 3 of those people. And then after that first hour is up, our MC hits the stage, brings on an opening act that does 20 minutes, then a headline act that does 30. And then after that's over, we have a smaller theater called the 654 Club, where 43 people have bought premium tickets can then see a formal close-up show, which lasts half an hour. And
Wow.
once that's over, they either go home or you go back to the bar where oftentimes there's a new magician who is working until anywhere between midnight and 2 in the morning.
Wow. That
Yeah,
sounds absolutely amazing.
it is. It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know a little bit of trivia that the 654 isn't that Houdini's favorite number?
No. The
Okay.
654 Club, you know what? Yes, I don't know if it was, but let's say yes. Uh,
Okay, sure. Why not?
why not? There's
All
a,
right, Carissa lied to us.
yeah, she definitely did. The 654 Club is a fictional nightclub in a story called Sam the Bellhop. Bill
Oh, it's
Maloney,
Sam the Bellhop.
it takes place at the
Okay,
60.
sorry, I knew that.
Yeah. So that's what's behind the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
For anyone who I don't ever really tip tricks, but if you ever get a chance, if you've never seen Sam the Bellhop, YouTube Sam the Bellhop routine, and I think Leonard Green, is that Leonard Green that does
That's Bill
uh,
Maloney.
Bill Malone. Bill Malone's Sam the Bellhop. It's fantastic. It's a great trick. I don't have the time or the patience for that many false cuts,
Yeah.
but it is I will watch it all day long.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So all right, there you go. Okay, that actually makes way more sense. I've betrayed again by Lucy Darling.
You gotta watch out.
Yeah. By the way, Carissa Hendricks just came out with some merch, so go to her website, CarissaHendricks.com, and buy her stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. Okay,
And I have all of it, so I know what you mean.
yeah. I just bought posters and pins, and yeah, and it came out to $69. So nice. Okay, so I want to move on to Penn and Teller, your Penn and Teller episode, because I was watching the role that they do before your act starts. And you said that some techniques are so old that they're new. I thought that was a really cool statement. But can you elucidate on that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, and I think about this all the time. Technique in contemporary sleight of hand magic, especially with cards, now more than ever, is performative. People, and by people I mean magicians, when they get together with other magicians, they want to talk about, let me see this move, or show me this move, show me that move. And even when they do the routines themselves, you get a sense of when they're doing things. And in the old days, and by the old days, I mean Di Vernon and before, sleight of hand was all supposed to be a secret, and if you read Vernon, for example, he would say his goal was to have a routine with one move in it. It was
Wow.
clandestine. It was so there's all these techniques, especially from yesteryear, older generations, that people don't even use anymore. They're completely forgotten. And I love those techniques. There's some books I don't even talk about because completely forgot. And yeah, there's some techniques that are very, very not just old, but completely forgotten. The ones that people remember, a lot of times they don't do them properly. Um, yeah, and when magicians think about technique, the way they think about it is so small. The same way when magicians think about magic, the way they think about magic is so small. And yeah, if you are able to connect with some of, I like to think of it as the old ways. Uh, Magic is real interesting and a lot more amazing. I found out. So I know that's very sort of cryptic way.
No, we love cryptic.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be cryptic, but it is cryptic because if you don't
Yeah,
know, you don't know. Um,
it's by nature cryptic.
yeah, yeah.
How what are some ways that you find those older techniques? Do you just keep your eye out for like a book at a used bookstore, or can you seek out that kind of thing, or what's your technique for finding old techniques?
You can fortunately seek a lot of this stuff out. I first sort of started learning about some of these things from my time with Eugene and later with Max Maven. When you were around those guys, they demanded that you know things about the past. If you didn't know things about the past, they were very um, selective with what they would share with you. So,
Okay.
for example, any routine that I do or that I was taught from Eugene, I had to know where all of it came from. Every move, like who came up with this week, and it was about respect. And it's just about know. It's like you have to know because this person they gave you a gift and you have it. You at least have to know their name. That's what Eugene would say. And then you would read some of these older books. You go back and read Okito on magic, or if you read The Stars of Magic, or some other books. There's just treasures in those books that nobody has kept up with. So yeah, I would just, it's not hard to find. You just have to look back a little bit, like a little bit, Let's just go back to Vernon and Marlowe and, read the stuff by Eugene and, Animan. It's all in there.
Yeah, that's not even hard stuff to find, but we have a short memory and there's a lot of information out there that's garbage, but it dilutes
Yeah.
the pool.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. The more I'm talking to professional magicians like Paige, and that, I mean, she said it right. You like get a book, read the books. That way, you're not just copying somebody, you're making your own stuff. So I'm learning more and more books are where it's at.
They're where it's at. Yeah. And, a lot
Yeah.
of these downloads that come out is usually an idea from an old book. And, but you get a download or something like that today. You get one idea for the same price. You get a book and you get 40. And in the old days, when it was a lot harder to get something published, the quality of what was in the book was so much higher. You know, so yeah, books are where it's at.
Yeah, I hear Vanishing Ink has great books. You
They
might have
do.
heard of them.
Oh,
Yeah, they're that's a great website. I love those guys.
me too. Me.
So there, what have you ever had a trick go wrong on stage? Like something that really, we're all going to have stuff that goes wrong. And sometimes, as you know, like from regular theater, a lot of times people don't know it didn't go wrong. And are you able to, have you ever had anything go wrong and you were able to recover from it and nobody knew it?
Yes, many times, because they don't know what's coming. What I think is really interesting is when something goes wrong and there's no way to recover.
Yeah.
Um, and because I've had situations like that, and what I've learned is, um, there's always a way to recover, but it's not
Okay.
in the way that you think. Like if, say you drop something and what you were going to produce is now on the floor and it's just there, uh, you can recover from that. You don't get the trick, but you get a joke, or you get a moment where people see you as a human, in a way where they stick with you. Even though the didn't work. What I've sort of discovered is lay people in the audience, they care a lot less about things working than we do, assuming it's one thing. If your whole show's not working, that's one thing. But if you have a moment in the show where something just is gone, if you have the right attitude, you don't lose the audience. As a matter of fact, they might like you more. You know, it depends on how you handle it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually really good advice.
Yeah.
Um, and along that line, what is the hardest magic trick that you feel that you've learned?
Um, the hardest magic trick. Uh, See, I don't think in those terms
Hmm.
because practice
Okay.
makes everything easy. You know, if you just keep practicing, it's all like when I first learned Symphony of the Rings, this magician said to me, like, what's the hardest part of that? Like, none of it. You know, I can just do it, you know, because you can do it. Um, the hardest element to figure out for me when it comes to the performance of magic is just me. You know, it's like, how do I integrate who I am in this effect into something that I can really sell and make special or wonderful? You know, the biggest mystery in magic we have to unravel is who we are. You know, it's not the trick. And that is very difficult. You know, it can take a long, long time. And I'm still working on it almost every day.
Okay. What would you, if you had to give your, do you feel like the person that you are on stage is just you as you are, or you feel like you're playing an exaggerated version of yourself, or do you feel like you're playing somebody completely who's not what you're like at all?
It's me with 8 hours of sleep. It's like me with energy.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
me, energy, and you know, I'm doing more and more stuff on stage. And yeah, I just feel like the best shows are the ones where I'm not even conscious of myself. I'm just in the moment with people and having fun. But I have this whole different approach about magic. I used to think that the material that I was presenting on the stage were the tricks. And I discovered that's not true. The material is the audience. The audience is my
Mm.
material. And what happens between me and them, that's the show. It's like Eugene said in his book, Intimate Power. It's one of the first things in the book. He says the show. He says it's the relation. It's about creating a relationship in which magical things happen. But the show is the relationship with the audience. And I read that 20 something years ago, but I only started to understand it maybe 2 years ago. You know, but it's
Okay.
yeah, it's the audience.
How important is the opener to your show?
It's hugely important because it does a lot of things all at once. It lets the audience know whether or not they can relax. Like, am I in the presence of someone who is prepared to lead me through this experience? Are they any good? It's really important because that first impression is hard to change it once they have it. You know, so it's important that I think the opening is very, 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 very important. Yeah. But the opening isn't just the tricks that you do, it's who you are, you know. My opening effect is smiling, you know, because that sets up everything. And then once they see I'm a nice, warm, friendly person, I can almost do anything. And it's fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, your open effect is smiling. That's
Smiling.
incredible.
You know, Max's opener was boo. Remember? He said boo. That's his, and he said that was his opener. The opener is
Oh,
the
wow.
first trick you do. And Eugene said this in the book, The Secrets of Restaurant Magic. The opening effect is you, and it's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is your advice to somebody who wants to start performing? Maybe they stumbled upon this by accident. Now they've even made it this far, and they're like, "All right, I want to do this. Maybe not for a living,
Yeah.
but or I just want to learn more." What would you say? What advice would you give them?
I would say to anyone who wants to pursue magic as a hobby, vocation, whatever, um, I would say take your time. You know, there used to be an old line, and whenever you bought these tricks from this company called Royal Magic, uh, at the end of the instruction, it would say the magician is created one effect at a time. So I would say learn something, learn it as completely as you can before going on to the next thing. And most importantly, is to have fun with it, and give yourself a break when things don't go right or if things are harder to learn than you hope they would be. just to, you know, give yourself grace because you will fail, and failure is not the end of it. It's part of the process, and it's actually part of the fun because you learn something at the end of each failure. But just remember, it's fun. It's fun, and just have fun with it, and take your time. Don't rush, and learn things thoroughly, as thoroughly as you can.
Wow. I'm so inspired.
That's good because I'm
So
not trying, so that's good.
you're not a what?
I'm not trying, so I'm glad it's
No,
working.
it's good. Well, I think it's your years of training. You're honed in. You're working. You know, you're it's different than somebody who's because you do perform
Yeah,
at the same time. But so you're performing, but you're also seeing it from a global perspective of I also am in charge of making sure that everybody I bring in is going to entertain. It's you're not just you're not just looking out for your own act. You're looking out for the every audience. It's not just your audience, it's every audience is your audience.
yeah, yeah.
Do you find that that's kind of more stressful, or are you just at this point you're just so good at it, you're going to be able to get that good show of everybody you bring in?
I feel confident that it will be that. There are times, and I'll talk about this. Maybe I'll talk about it now. I was going to save this till I was done with all this stuff.
I
Um,
have only like two questions, so
yeah.
if you want to hold on to it, you can.
No, no, no.
Okay.
This 99% of the time, yeah, I think these people are going to go out there and it's going to be a great time for everyone. But sometimes when I think someone is interesting and is pushing things forward in a new way, I understand that this might not be well received. And I'm actually okay with that because it's really interesting. I'm very selective when I take that approach because my job is to make people happy most of the time. But sometimes I'm willing to take a chance if I think this performer is going to give something special.
Okay, that's actually and that's actually a couple of people that I've interviewed say if, and this is kind of an odd thing to say because me being a people pleaser, it's a little harder for me to understand that sometimes it's okay if not everybody in the audience is has uh, gets it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
it's some people are going to be offended, and I think some people are almost proud of that
Yeah,
if it's, and how do you feel about that? If somebody leaves offended, are you like, hey, that's fine, it happens, or
yeah. Well,
because
hopefully, I don't want anyone to necessarily be offended, but I don't need people to love everything. It's like
got
if
it?
you think that like that was weird or that was strange, I don't get what that was. That's okay. Um, because it's funny. We don't expect that when we go to the theater. There are things that make us cry, that make us feel all different kinds of emotions. But with magic, everyone's supposed to be smiling. It's like, why? That's. I always feel like if everyone loves everything, then it's probably a little too pedestrian.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I don't want to offend anybody, but I do want to challenge people's uh, conceptions of what they think magic is, and um,
okay.
they think what makes magic interesting because people have such limited experience with magic, and part of the job is just to expose you to everything it can be as much as I can.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Um, what is your favorite magic book? I know you probably, this may be hard to distill down because you're a connoisseur of magic books, but what is, if you had to pick one book you could take with you on a desert island, what would it be?
One book would be Greater Magic. Greater Magic. If you read just this part in the Great Magic called the Procession, if that's the only thing you read, it will change your life. And it's not even a trick. It will literally change your life. And then the book is filled. It's like 900 pages. It's huge, and it's
Wow.
every kind of magic and a lot of card magic. If you like card tricks, you're great. You're done.
You're set. Good.
But no, Greater Magic. If I could only pick one, it would be Greater Magic.
And who wrote Greater Magic?
Well, Greater Magic, John Northern Hilliard compiled all of this
Okay.
material um, um, over his life. And yeah, so it's lots of different people. But John know
Oh,
that
wow. Okay.
he's credited as the author, but it's many different people's material.
I love it. So, last question. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give a young Benjamin Barnes?
Uh, the advice I would give a young me is um, don't be afraid to just go for it. Uh, the big lesson of my life is all the dreams you have are going to come true if you have the courage to pursue them. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to wish, just go for it. It's going to work out. And I think that's true of most people. If they have the courage to pursue their dream, it's almost inevitable. So that's the advice I would give myself. Don't be afraid. Just do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, this has been the greatest. Like, I'm got chills.
Okay, good.
So that's all the time we have for today's episode. Benjamin Barnes, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking your time to sit down with us and tell us your story. How can people see you perform?
They can see me perform Chicago Magic Lounge. I'm there when I'm in Chicago. Almost every night I'm in Chicago, I'm at the Chicago Magic Lounge. As a matter of fact, I'll be there tonight. I'm up here at the Magic Castle 1 to 2 times a year. And then just keep an eye out. I pop up all over the country. So keep an eye out. And find me on
Yep.
Instagram. I usually put things on Instagram too.
So make sure you check them out, give them a like. And to anyone listening, if you like what we're doing here, please like and subscribe on YouTube so you can watch us in glorious video. And trust me, you want to see us in glorious video. And follow and rate the podcast so we can spread the word that magic is for everyone. I'm Dr. Todd. This was Magician's Workshop, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Magic.